Here. Okay, now we're going to have a review of 1.2 that's going to set the stage for everything else that follows. Okay, Keith, go for it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Apparently, I missed the organizing meeting where they assigned me all the talks for the first part of this meeting. So uh, I apologize for getting my slides mixed up a little bit. What I wanted to do is just take us really quickly through 1.2, and we've already heard a lot of this, so I'm going to run through this quickly so we can get to the meat of the program. But the bulk of what's been accomplished over the last year has been this 1.2 development process. And I'm going to remind you a bit about that in a little more detail. We talked about the foundation's goals, and I think we're all pretty clear on that. But I think the focus for us has been, really on this community aspect of building, and so we're going to emphasize this all day today. But going back to the question of why TransMART, I just wanted to give us a quick reminder, remind us why we're here. Drug discovery is, in fact, a challenge today. And I was listening to a TED Talk the other day. Richard Resnick, who runs a company called Genome Quest, was talking a bit about the new nature of drug discovery. And the comment he made is that drug discovery is, well, the moderator said, is becoming a data science. And Richard Resnick said, drug discovery is data science. And I think that's really, to me, was the crux of why TransMark is so important today, is that when we look at the growing information that we're collecting about patients and the kind of things that we need to do in terms of developing more personalized approaches to therapy, a platform like TransMart is, in fact, an absolute requirement. It's not optional. And so that's really, I think, one of the key drivers for us and why we're here. But it's really to have an impact on this drug discovery process, which is very, very failure prone. In fact, today, even with all the experience we have and all the optimization that's done, half of phase 3 trials fail. And phase 3 trials are that final phase before approval. We should be better than that. I borrowed this slide from one of our member companies, Oracle, and I thought this really encapsulated the meaning behind why we're here. This is from a study that, if you look down here, it was a Nature Reviews Drug Discovery. It's lessons learned from the fate of AstraZeneca's drug pipeline over the past 5 years. And what was very interesting is they really want to focus on having the right target, the right tissue, the right safety, the right patients, et cetera, and to implement that through having the right biomarkers to do that stratification and selection. And if you look, 82% of projects with an efficacy biomarker were active or successful in phase 2A, which is one of the more failure-prone phases of drug discovery, compared to 30% of projects without these biomarkers. So we have, in essence, a threefold increase in efficiency and success rate at an early stage of drug discovery. In addition, 85% of all projects now include for them a personalized healthcare strategy, and their analysis shows that this has resulted in a 400% increase in success rates. This is why people are focusing on this approach to identifying the right patients using the right kinds of markers. We have to be able to gather this information together. We have to integrate it. We have to focus it on the right cohorts. We have to be able to identify and define it. And when we do, it makes a big difference. Okay? So what is this translational research domain and why is it important? It really is the linking, and I'll do this very simply with one of the slides that I drew. But it's really pulling together, the clinical information with the discovery information. And I was struck at the Bio-IT World Conference last year when Paul Aviak made the statement. He said, Google Maps does this really great mashup of all sorts of information using a GPS coordinate as the center for organizing different layers of information. And what TransMark does is do the same kind of thing. It allows us to bring lots of information together, clinical data, metabolomic data, gene expression data, genomic variation data, all centered on the GPS location coordinate of the patient. So I stole that, Paul, I'm sorry. It is attributed, but to me that really opened my eyes to really thinking about what our task is and what our challenge is. It's to be able to bring all that information together and focus it on the patient. And then focus it on the sets of patients that we really want to identify, define, and ultimately treat. And so we want to bring together that information, be it basic clinical information, high throughput, biological measurements like gene expression, ultimately genomes, bring together the complexity of the disease biology by being able to segregate into the appropriate cohorts, integrate all this heterogeneous data, and in fact, drive that up to what the end user scientist needs to see, which is some visualization of that information. Because simply trying to consume the data at the level of data is not effective for the scientist trying to make decisions. So it's all that from organizing, integrating, bring it up, and then visualizing it in a way that scientists and physicians can actually make decisions. That's really critical. This is a slide that came from Brian and Gil, but in essence, this is that mashup of the information that Google Maps does and which TransMark does for the patient. Is focusing all these different layers of information on that individual set of patients, so we can now specifically assess those. And one of the things that I've been involved with personally and been really intrigued to see is that once we have this information, it can be used in many different ways. So Orion Bionetworks, for example, has taken their integrated data here and begun to build models using machine learning. And taking the data from a TransMART instance and doing machine learning on it, to me, that's an amazing transition into that next level of learning from data. And I think that's a very important thing for us to do. So what is TransMART? For those of you who are new here, which is probably not anybody, but anybody new here that's not been involved with TransMART before, welcome. Welcome to the community. I want to see more hands like that next year. So the TransMART platform is really it's a combination of a data warehouse, a data mart, where we can load it with the information that's really pertinent and important. We can curate it, we can clean it, we can make it coherent, and integrate it. And then on top of this, through this process of curating and loading data into this data warehouse, we have an analytical layer, a toolbox that enables us to then, work with the information as we query it from that database. And it's the combination of this analytical layer, the browse and search layer, with the underlying data warehouse that really makes this effective. One of the things that's really interesting, I think I mentioned earlier, is I downloaded TransMART virtual machine image onto my MacBook and I ran it there. The concept that I can take an enterprise class data warehouse and run it on a laptop computer in a virtual machine, I mean, technology has taken us a really long way. But it's the data and what we load into that makes this effective. And that's why we'll talk a lot about, in this meeting, the strategies around content. Because now, when you have a platform that can do the integration, we want to take that content and work with it and share and collaborate on that very same content. And that sharing, to me, takes place, amongst three main, constituencies in our community. We have a discovery group, which is really focused on trying to do early stage discovery. Are we going at the right target? Do we have some key markers we can look at to see if we're hitting the right target, et cetera? The preclinical group, can we translate that research information into what we're seeing in preclinical animal models? Do we have the right kinds of elements there? And then ultimately, can we translate the discovery data and the preclinical data into a clinical trial design and, in fact, have a higher success rate in that process of clinical trial development? And it's bringing these three groups together on these data that I think is really the critical aspect of community and driving this effort. And ultimately, it's the success rates that we have in therapeutic development that are going to drive all of the innovation that's happening back on the other end of this. You've seen this slide before. You'll see slides more like this in the end. What I like is this is starting to become an eye test. When we were doing this a year ago, there were 35 groups that had some sort of level of pilot of the platform. This slide was done less than 12 months ago at 50 organizations. And as I mentioned before, with 1.1, which really was the first version that was fully open source using the Postgres database backend, we have over 179 organizations that downloaded it 354 times, at least by our count. I mean, this is not comprehensive or complete. And as I said, I think it's really interesting that we have pharma companies, we have universities, we have hospitals, we have institutes, centers. We have a lot of different kinds of organizations represented in this group, which is really what we want to see in a diverse community. And the platform, it's been award-winning. I think this is a great example of the kinds of things that we've done. This is, in fact, the TransMART platform's second BioIT World Best Practice Award. This was given to the UBioPred project, led by Yanni Pandis, for their implementation of TransMART 1.1 for UBioPred. I hope to be sitting here next year with the winners of the 1.2 BioIT World Best Practices Awards, as I expect to see those as well. But this is the recognition that we want to achieve and that we want to continue growing to build our community out. This has been the much belabored Paris slide of all the various elements here. I'm going to focus on the process. So the process here was, how do we take a set of features that we've defined that exist on, a dozen different branches of code in GitHub, some on 1.0 on Oracle, some on 1.1 in Postgres, various different branches that have been, evolved in different directions, those various branches on the tree, and bring them together into a single branch. As EK, made very clear to me, our code base can't grow if we don't bring it back to a trunk. Right? We can't be always working on branches. We'll continue to diverge, and ultimately things will not be compatible with each other. And it was really bringing it back to a single branch and a single code base to work from that was integral. Well, the way we did that was by organizing the community. We worked with members like Sanofi and others who sponsored hackathons. We brought together developers to do this. So in February, we had a 3-day hackathon that we brought together in Boston. Was held at the offices of Deloitte. It was sponsored by Sanofi. And we did the initial set of merges, code merges, to start building 1.2. In April, we had another hackathon in London, sponsored there at Imperial College, to continue that process. And then as we brought these code branches together, the next real challenge was to begin testing, because merging the code is one thing, making it work is a whole other thing. At least that's what I learned. So we had a series of testathons where we could really bring people together, not just the developers now, but end users and groups involved in loading data. And turns out it's a real challenge to load 50 different data sets into a data warehouse to begin testing code on it. And it took us a long time to, in fact, just gather the data that was necessary to do this. So we put together these, and what we realized in the process of the testathons was that we really wanted to have a wider testing and more data. And so we organized what we called a community testing release in June of last year. So we rolled the code out to everyone with the whole premise of, this is the code, the single code base that we're using for testing. Let's now all begin testing, reporting bugs, working on this, and begin the patching process. So we did this. We had then organized there 3 2-week sprints that were community-wide sprints using an agile approach to do testing, debugging, data loading. We focused them on data loading and ETL development, functional testing and debugging, and then implementation testing and debugging. And by bringing this group together over this period of time, August 1st, we were able to issue the first production release of 1.2. Over the course of August, we in fact did the implementation of a code governance process, something the platform has not had in the past. So we now have a process for aggregating bug fixes across the community, integrating those into a patch, and then releasing patches to the platform, which currently we're now on a 6-week patch release cycle. And based on getting that first patch release cycle done, we launched the platform on September 9th and 10th, jointly here at the University of Michigan and at Imperial College in London. And so this is really the process that led us from the group consensus of what we wanted to do to the delivery of a platform that does what we all want it to do. The features that made it into this, I think, go beyond even what we had designed. We had contributions from people that we hadn't imagined to have contributions from. But what we have is a release that combines, public code that unifies Oracle and Postgres. The code comes from, all sorts of different branches that were on the GitHub of people contributing code to individual branches, and then integrating those together from there. And if you look at the overall summary of the platform, in a nutshell, TransMART has over 6,000 code commits made by 98 contributors. This is at the code level, representing over 1.5 million lines of code. 1.5 million lines of code. One of the things I think to EK said is that sometimes smaller is better, and I think we have to work to make this a little smaller. But 1.5 million lines of code. The code base is written mostly in SQL. It is a data warehouse, right? I'm very proud to say, we have a very well commented source code, which I think for open source is a major accomplishment. I want to encourage people to continue working that way. That's fantastic. One of the things that makes it, increases our ability to maintain and support the code is to have well-documented code. We have a young but established code base maintained by, as Black Duck would say, a very large development team, 98 contributors, with increasing year-over-year commits. We're growing, which is fantastic. And then if one uses the Kokomo model to look at the level of effort that's gone into TransMART to date, by Kokomo, it's 433 person years of effort. 433 person years of effort into the platform. The first commit in the open source was in February of 2012 when the platform was open sourced. I did this morning. The most recent commit to the code was 6 days ago. So very actively contributing to the code. It's a fantastic thing. Everyone here should be proud. If you look at, you can get 30-day summaries and 12-month summaries, and et cetera. Just in the last 30 days, we've had 157 commits from 12 different contributors, including one brand new contributor to the base. And those commits are JavaScript and CSS. In the 12 months that we had in the past, encompassing 1.2 development, it's over 3,800 code commits. If you look at the key contributors here, these are the contributors sorted by their 12-month commits. Gustavo has been a great contributor here. Ruslan from the Hive, Riza, Harm Arts. I had to go find out who Harm Arts was, Case. Where are you, Case? It's like, I couldn't find, where is he in the TransMark community? So I sent him an email. And he's like, oh, I worked with Case, and then we did all this stuff before, and now he's doing some other open source project. But it was great because he was really enthusiastic about TransMark. He was really pleased that we actually found that he was contributing code. It was actually a really cool interaction. But we have a tremendous group of contributors to the code base. This to me is the the slide that encapsulates the 1.2 development and testing process. So what we have here is the report from Jira, which as we go back to basically the annual meeting in November when we established what we wanted to do for 1.2, and we look at the effort, and this is now showing simply issues that have been reported. So people doing bug testing, finding an issue, submitting that to the platform, then to be addressed by a developer. And so the top line here, issues reported. The green line are issues that have been resolved. And what we can see is that the impact of our hackathons and our testathons were in fact really effective. We see the first sets of issues being reported in our first hackathon. We see that growing. When we had the testathons, we've engaged the testers and the community to start begin reporting things. The developers immediately responded to fixing these bugs, and you can see that effort of the development side. And then as we got to production release, we can see more work on implementation, but still continued testing. And this has continued to go this way. One thing I'll point out to people is there is a gap here between bugs that have been fixed and bugs that have been reported. That is the challenge for us, is to make sure that that gap continues to close. Okay, that's why we have a code governance program that's been put in place. That's why we're issuing patches and releases on a regular basis. But it's to ensure that this platform continues to increase in its quality and its stability as we all continue to work with it. So everyone here who's using the code base for any purpose, make sure that you are reporting any issues you have back through Jira. That's a very important aspect of our governance. If we look at the people that have contributed on the reporting side, you'll see Terry's name a lot in here, which I think University of Michigan should be quite proud of Terry. But we've had a fantastic group of people contributing on the bug reports, on fixing bugs, and going through and making sure that what we're doing is in fact getting better and better every day as we all work together toward it. If we look at the 1.2 key enhancements, there are a number of key enhancements that are quite important. I'm not going to belabor these too much. I actually don't see a clock anywhere, Kevin, so if I get over time, you're going to have to kick me out. Okay. We have enhancements on the analytics side, support for genome data with the Dalliance genome browser. I have to say, from a visual demo, the work that's been done with the GWAS data and the genome data, to me, as someone with a genetics background, it's been just amazing to see that we're doing this now in the TransMark platform. The integration with Galaxy and Guava, support for various command line analytics through the R integration. Data export's been optimized. We have now support for serial time course data. I know one of the groups that's now working with the platform, Michael J. Fox, has a very strong interest in fact, very detailed time course information drawn from wearable sensors. And we'll see some increasing development, I believe, in the platform around wearable sensor data. We have greatly improved graphics in the analytics, very good new workflows that have been integrated, particularly things around RNA-seq, which I think is really moving with the field and keeping up. We have a number of new high-dimensional data types. We have proteomics data, Gil, with the RBM, mass spec-based proteomics, qPCR, microRNA, RNA-seq, microRNA, et cetera. I mean, the key thing has been to really bring the state-of-the-art measurement technology that's now in early stages of implementation clinically into the platform to make sure we can capture it, integrate it, and utilize it. We also have improved sample ID handling and can include unstructured data files and link those into the patient data as well. One of the key things to being able to test the platform is we had to have data to test the platform. With all these new functions, we had over 50 data sets that were contributed by Converge Health, CTMM Trait, eTrix, Imperial College, Pfizer, Rancho Biosciences, Sanofi, Thomson Reuters, and others, which I'm sure I've missed here. But over 50 different data sets were contributed, including GWAS data, metabolomics data, proteomics data, microRNA data, et cetera. And so all these data are loaded into the demo instance. It's hosted on the BT Global Services platform. So you can get in and you can work with any of these different functions by simply going to the TransMark Foundation website and linking through to the BT server. One of the things I wanted to make sure that we could do is that literally with no installation, no implementation, you can go work with these features by following a hyperlink on the TransMark Foundation website. And then you can work with the platform directly there, and these data are available there. The development was a very broad community effort, a lot of effort focused on platform development. The testing, I have to say I was incredibly impressed with the number of people that got involved in the testing process. We had over 100 people involved in testing with bug reports and things coming from a tremendous variety of people. And I want to thank everyone who participated in that testing. It was incredibly valuable. And we now have an ongoing effort in documentation and training. So one of the key things to have a workable platform is to make sure that we have documentation materials. We can train people how to use that, and then we have some training programs available. And so I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. And contributions here have come basically across the community. But back to EK's point, what is the strategic importance of 1.2? It's this unified code base that will not only facilitate broader adoption, but also enable an evolution of the platform, on that single branch. So we can now all innovate using all the innovations that have been brought together. We see as we go forward from a roadmap perspective, doing the same kind of, evolve and coalesce type model. One of the great improvements to 1.2 has been the implementation of an API to enable the development of various plugins. Those of you who are developers will know that having a plugin architecture means that we can build applications without having to go in and mess with the code, the main application code. And that's a very important thing for us in terms of advancing the platform. And it's a realizable code base for production use. This is really a production-ready platform. So I think the key here for our meeting today is that with these features, we have the chance and the ability to build a sustainable roadmap for the further development of the platform. And we're all here together for the next 3 days to ensure that we can bring that all together, we all have input in that, and that we can derive that roadmap going forward. The documentation program, I want to call that out. This is an ongoing program. This is being led by Eric Kaplan, who's project managing that. Eric, are you here? So Eric is here. Anybody who has any documentation for 1.1 or 1.0 or 1.2 in any form should be working with Eric. Eric is bringing all that together and is making that into a single coherent documentation base. The key elements of that are, a user guide, there's online help, a technical guide, release notes, various migration guidelines, and data loading. I would encourage you, since, Eric, your PhD is not in computer science, is it? What is it in again? History. Okay. So you're not going to be writing these, right, Eric? Okay. We need people to write these so that Eric can edit them and put them into English. Okay? So don't feel bad about what your writing style might be, but we really do need people to contribute to writing these materials. If you have these, please contribute. If you have an ability or an interest in helping to write these that don't exist, please see Eric during the course of this meeting. As these get completed, they'll be rolling out individually, so we'll have incremental delivery of these key elements. And while you're here, you'll be able to see some of the initial documentation that's available. Right, Eric? Fantastic. Another thing that we're doing is trying to lower the barrier in terms of being able to work with the platform and use the platform. So I don't know if many of you are like me. When I first started to try working with TransMark, it's like I could never do it like Paul. I just, I would have to sit down and look through some instructions, and Paul would get up there and make it look really easy. So what we've done is take advantage of that, and we've put together a series of videos and tutorials so that you can do TransMark like Paul. Well, hopefully. Some people bend it like Beckham. We do TransMark like Paul Aviak. So Alex Pepa, who has joined us, has been working as the project manager for this. And we're putting together a key set of video demos and scripts that go along with it. So you can basically go and take the video, take a script that says, step 1, step 2, step 3, go and log on the BT Global Services demo version of the platform, and you can run that yourself. And you can, in fact, run exactly through that and make sure you know how to do it. Those are ongoing. They'll be, again, rolling out individually, and you'll be able to see some of these at the meeting. But they're all getting put into a YouTube channel and being made available there with the demo scripts. So you can go in and run them and take a look at which particular feature you're interested in and run through it. Again, I'll point out that Alex is not a world's expert in TransMark, but she's really good at putting together the scripts and the demos and running through and making sure they work and getting the videos to work right. If you have a video, demo, or a script that works, please make sure it gets to either Eric, who's here on site today, or Alex Pepa, who's not on site, unfortunately, but who you can reach at the foundation. Okay? I think Alex has the easiest website, or the easiest email address at the foundation. It's alex.pepa. 8 characters. I can show you, I don't know if I can show you this or not. Let me see if this works. But this is just an example. So the idea is you have a quick tutorial. It'll have voiceover with it as well, which we can't play through here. But it basically will walk you through a particular function. This happens to be for the browse and search. So you go in up the browse menu, you follow your script, and it'll go through and show you how to select the data that's the part of the example, et cetera. So you can sit down yourself, or if you have an end user that is interested in learning how to do a particular function, you can point them at this, and they can basically do a self-training. And that's really the key to this for us. So the last part is actually a real training. So we've wanted to put together for some time a program where people can come and learn various aspects of how to use the program, how to develop on the platform, etc. So Rudy Potenzone has been working with Rancho Biosciences to put together a training program that will be focused on users, admins, advanced, and then we can do custom developed programs. These will be on site, they'll be regional, we'll also have them done by webinar so we can do them virtually and remotely. It's a fee-based program, so we need to cover the cost of developing the program and running it. So unfortunately these won't be free, but in fact they'll be widely available to go from there. So this is a really important aspect of what we've been putting together. The first training course is it's a user-based course, right, Rudy? And it'll be a 2-hour general user training followed by a 1 hour of monitored use run by Rancho. How many people do we have signed up now? Are 15 all signed up? So who is signed up for this? I saw hands in the back. Fantastic. Great. So we want some feedback from this. We want to see how well it works, etc. Pardon me. I don't know if there's any water around, but I'm talking too much this morning. Yes, I got that. So we have, this has all been put together on a dedicated training instance. Yeah, it's like I'm going to die here. So we have a dedicated instance of the platform specifically for training. Has all the data loaded into it. It's ready to go. and for people to use. So that's been organized through BT Global Services, and thank you very much. Whew. Hey, wait a minute, this is water. Oh, I'm sorry. The other key thing around 1.2 has been a rebranding the foundation. So what we wanted to do is make sure that as we came together as a community, we've really, rebuilt not only the platform, but the community, the approach, the foundation. And so we brought Rudy on to help us rebrand the foundation. And what we want to do is give us a new identity, a new logo, a new website, some new communication mechanisms, a fresh look for what the foundation looks like. And I'll point out that one of the mandates we were given in this is that we'll know we're successful if we can get Mike McGlashan to tattoo the logo on his arm. So I'm waiting for that, Dan, to see if we can get Mike to do that. So in the logo area, we were able to develop a new logo for the foundation, following an open source guideline. We're kind of O for open, et cetera, bringing together genomic information, et cetera, around TransMART. And then we specifically wanted a logo for the version 1.2 of the platform. Anyone who's run the TransMark platform has seen that there's some embedded logos in there for the platform. And so we wanted to have a distinct identity for the 1.2, and we developed this. I'll point out that following in our open source heritage and crowdsourcing, we did crowdsourcing for both these logos, and in fact, it was an incredibly successful program. So I was very, very happy with how that worked for us. The new website has been put together. It's got a new look and feel. It's got all the new branding to it. We now update this on a regular basis, often daily. You can get to the 1.2 platform, elements there, the YouTube channel, the Twitter channel, the LinkedIn network, et cetera. And so there's a lot of information one can get to from here. It is constantly being updated and advanced. And you can get links from here to, like I said, to Twitter, to LinkedIn, and other places where we're very active. So in closing, I just wanted to run through the 1.2 development. It's not just the code, but we did prioritize a series of features in Paris. We organized the hackathons, testathons, produced a community testing release, had a very large community-wide testing program, ran a series of sprints to get bug fixing accomplished, produced a production release in August, and then implemented a code governance process to make sure that we have patches, releases, and updates. Initiated the documentation project, the video demo and scripting project, and then rebranded the foundation and platform. So this has really been the key sprint and effort around 1.2 that we initiated again as we got together last November, and that we've delivered ahead of this meeting. And what I'm hoping is that as we go through these 3 days and we define what we're doing over the next year, you don't make us work quite so hard. No. I want to thank everyone who had an effort in this. In fact, I think we should all give everyone in the community a big round of applause for the 1.2. Thank you. So Kevin, I think we're in a break now. So we have a 30-minute break.